Untitled Chapter on my PC, and today I'm making another tutorial for you guys. In today's tutorial, I'm making a tutorial about how to make a chatbot in Java. And the reason I made this is because I told my brother I could predict how he would respond in an argument. So let me just give you an example right now. Hello, Michael.
Yes.
You know League's a terrible game?
You're a terrible game.
No, I really think League's a terrible game, Michael.
You're a terrible game.
And you're terrible at video games.
Why?
Because you play League.
Okay. Well, I'll beat you in any single video game.
Well, I think you're lucky to have that big screen as well.
You're lucky to have the big screen.
Well, I paid for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. By the way, do you know that your argumentative skills are so predictable I can make a program out of it?
You did?
I did? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to make a tutorial about it, do you know that?
I'm sure you are.
Okay, I'm going to go get started on that right this instant. Alright, so here we are in this tutorial. Before we get started, I have a small confession to make. I'm not actually going to show you how to do make the counter speech in this one. Like in the intro, I said League's a terrible game, and he said you're a terrible game. So that type of counter speech, I'm not going to show you how to do that in this tutorial. Instead, I'm going to show you how to make it react to different phrases. But after this tutorial, I'm going to make a bonus tutorial where I'm going to show you how to do the counter speech thing. But I figured I'd make this chatbot tutorial how to make it react to certain phrases because that's far more generic and more helpful to you probably. So I programmed a few greeting phrases, so I can say hi and he'll say hi back. And then he has multiple things that he can say. And there's multiple things I can say to make him register as a greeting. So if I say hola, he also registers as a greeting. There, so that makes it flexible. And I also programmed how are you, and he will respond to that, and he has multiple responses to that. And then in addition, it's non-case sensitive, and it won't respond to punctuation either. So it's okay, let me try this again. How are you? There. So it won't respond to punctuation. That space in there messed it up. One of the problems with chatbots is it's very hard to fix all the glitches. It's so much based on user input. So I forgot to make it to respond to space in between that. But as you see, I had uppercase there and a punctuation mark there, and it responded okay. And then I have several default responses that I can work with. So if I just put in random stuff, he'll still respond. Alright, so now let's move on to the code. The code's over here. So it looks quite big right now, but it's going to be about 3 times bigger when we're done. So I'll just go through this real quick and show you what I have. So these are all swing components that we'll be using to organize it. And this is color that I use for the background and key listener. And key listener I use for it to monitor when I press enter, so that way I'll know when I input stuff. And then I made it extend JFrame because that's part of things for swing. And implement key listener, and like I said, I'm going to use key listener to check when I press enter. And if you don't, I'm assuming you have a rudimentary understanding of swing applications already. If you don't, I made a tutorial a little while back about it. I believe it's in my basic Java series, and I believe it's number 14, maybe 15. Yeah, it's 14 and 15 in my basic Java series. But so you can try watching that if you want to learn about swing. And then the one after swing, I talk about action listeners, which are exactly the same as key listeners, only action listeners can monitor buttons and that kind of stuff, and key listeners monitor the keys you're typing. So very, very similar. Alright, so before I get into the main method, I added a few variables, starting with jpanel, because that will add the board so that I can add stuff to the swing application, and it's just useful. And then jtext area, I actually have 2 jtext areas. One's the dialog, which is going to contain the whole conversation, and one's the input where you can input your contribution to the conversation. Dialogue is non-editable, input is editable. That's the main difference between them. That and the size, and I have the size set up here that just seemed to fit. And then I set up a JScroll pane. I haven't done this before. I learned about it for the first time when I was making this tutorial, but it's pretty simple. You just select the text area that you want to scroll, and you put that down as your first argument in JScroll pane. And next two are specifications and how you want to scroll. I've spread this over several lines because the constants are so big. So I want to spread vertically as needed, and I want to never scroll horizontally. Alright, and then moving right along. in the main method I activated the constructor method for the class, and in the constructor method I take care of some Swing application stuff. So super chatbot means that the title will be chatbot, and I set the size, and I made the resizable false, and I the default close operation, and then at the end I made it visible. And then here I set the dialogue, the one where the conversation is going to be. I set editable equal to false, and the default is true, so the input will still remain true. And then I added the scroll unit and the input over to the in the window. It's important that you add scroll instead of dialogue, because scroll contains dialogue and it'll make it scrollable. If you added dialogue, it would not be scrollable. And then I set the background color of the panel. I made it orange. In my actual application I made it blue because blue is Michael's favorite color, but orange is my favorite color, and since it's my tutorial I'm going to make it orange. And then you add P to the J frame to show everything, and then make it visible true. So since I implemented key listener, it means I also got to have the methods from key listener in some form, and those are all down here. Alright, so here we are 6 minutes and I haven't even started anything yet. Now I'm going to start talking about this. I can see this being a long tutorial. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to create an array, and I'm going to make it a two-dimensional array, and I'm going to call it chatbot. This will contain all the phrases that Michael can say and all the phrases he can react to. So this is the basic way it's going to be set up. Let's see. Okay, so if you've only watched my basic Java series and you don't have any experience with dimensional arrays, the basis of it is that this is the array, and then each index of the array is another array. So this is the first index, second index, or I guess at 0 with first, second, third, fourth, and so on. So, and then each index contains another array. This could be hard to work with, or hard to get used to, but if you keep working at it, you'll get used to it. So I split up into different sections. So this is the standard greetings. Then I have another section for question greetings, and then I got another section for the default stuff. Okay, so the you notice I have 2 in each of these groups, I guess. And the first one are going to be possible things I could say. So if I say hi, or hello, or hola, or hola, or howdy, or there are a lot of different things that I could say that could make him say greeting, and it doesn't really matter what he says. So I could just say hello, hi, or hello, or hey. So these are possible things he'll react to, and then if one of those things is found, he'll say one of these things at random. That's the basis behind how it works. So this is the first group of 2, and then the second group of 2 we have the same, sort of similar. How are you? There's not really as many ways to say that one, but I can also use this for checking for typos or common chat speak. So how are you? Or how are you? Or how are you? That's another nice thing about this technique, because you can check for common errors relatively easily. And he'll say good or doing well. Okay. It's important that you understand how the system works, because that's what this whole tutorial is about, how to make it work. So it'll check for one of these, and then put one of these down if it finds it, and then check for one of these, and put one of these if it matches anything. And then if it doesn't match anything, it'll go for the default. And you're going to want to put in a lot of defaults, because odds are, the majority of the time, you're not going to have one of these reactions to it. And the more defaults you have, the more intelligent he will seem. So, some common things that my little brother would say if he doesn't want to talk to you is shut up, or you're bad, or noob, or what else could we say? Stop talking. And then probably the most common is Michael is unavailable. Due to weak or law. There. So these are just some default things, and you can make this list as long as you want. That's another nice thing about this thing, that you can make all these lists as long as you want and make work. So make sure you understand this concept. So now that we have our chatbot array set up, let's go ahead and take care of the key listener stuff. So first things first, down here, I'm going to add a key listener to our input box, so that way these key listener methods will respond to inputs. So input.add key listener this. So that way it'll trigger the key listeners in this class, not another class. So these will be triggered by events that happened in this box. Okay, so now we can go down to key pressed, and we only want to do anything if we press enter. So first thing we're going to check is if the key we pressed was enter. So if e.get key code, alright, so this will get the key code, which is a number, but there's constants in the key event class, makes it easy for us to figure out which number, because it's hard to remember two numbers. So bk000 enter is the variable that represents the number that represents enter. So if we press enter, first thing we want to do is we don't want it to register enter as a type down thing. We don't want it to move it down the next line. So we're going to set editable equal to false, or we're going to set input.set. Okay, so now input is no longer editable, and because pressed happens before the key is registered in the box, the enter will not actually be typed down. And then we want it to be set editable again in the key released function. So I'll go ahead and do that. So this will make it true again. That way it won't register the enter as something happening. Alright, so now there's going to be a couple things we're going to do. Number one, we're going to grab the quote. We're going to grab the quote from the text area, from the input, let's say. Number two, we are going to check for matches in our array that the array made up. And then if we don't find any matches, we're going to go with the default. Okay, so that's the system we're gonna go. So first we're gonna grab the quote, then we're gonna check for matches. We're gonna go through that array that we just set up and see if anything matches, and there's anything we can respond to. And if there's nothing we can respond to, we're gonna have to go with the default. That's the plan. All right, so grab quote. All right, so we're gonna create a new variable, string quote. So string is a word, and it will be equal to input.get text. This will just grab the text, whatever text we have in the input. And now we want to clear the text in the input because once we're done with this, we want it to be cleared for us to type more stuff. So input.set text. Yeah, that's right. So this will set the text and input equal to that, which is nothing. Alright. Now I want to add text. We want to add what we said to the conversation before we calculate what Michael's going to say. So text we want to add is you. Oh, we'll just put this in front and indicate that we're the one talking. A /t plus quote. Now you probably didn't notice this, but if you are really familiar with Java, you would know that doesn't exist. I'm not stating which we'll want to add text to, and this doesn't work. So this is a method that I'm going to make, so that way we can just use this method. Simply, we can add text, not go through the whole thing every time we want to add text, because we're going to be adding text quite often, and it's not a difficult algorithm, but it's hard enough, or it's long and tedious enough for us to want to make a method for it. Okay, so the method is public void add text. So it has no return type, so therefore just void. And then it's going to, as a input or as an argument, it's going to take a string, so string str. And then we're going to want to add this to the dialog. Okay, so dialog dot set text, because we're going to add text to it. And we could just say str, but that will replace whatever text we have with str. So we're going to say dialog.getText. We're going to grab what it has, and we're going to add str to the picture. So that's all it is. It's not very long, but it's just tedious enough for me to want to make a method out of it. You don't have to. That's just a matter of preference. So we're setting text to that. Or so no, we're adding this to the text. Alright, okay. And now I'm going to type down quote.trim. So this will take away all the white space. So if you add space to the end or the back, then that is now gone. Now what we're going to want to do is take away any punctuation, because we don't want to respond to the punctuation. So I'm going to say while, and so while there's a punctuation, I think that's spelled right, then take away the punctuation. So that's the idea behind this while loop. It'll keep taking away punctuations as long as there's punctuation at the end of the sentence. Okay? So the way we're going to check whether there's punctuation at the end of the sentence is we're going to grab the very last char in our quote string. So we're going to say quote.char at, and then the quote.length. So this will be the length of the quote, how many characters there are in it. But we want to get rid of we want to check for the very last one. So this is how many characters are in it, but it's a zero-based system. So it starts at 0, therefore the last index is actually length minus 1. That's a programming concept you're going to have to get used to, because it happens everywhere in programming. So if that's equal to an exclamation mark, and put single quotations around it just to show that it's a character. So if it's like that, and I'm going to press enter a few times because we're going to have quite a few stuff we're going to put down. So that's for the exclamation point. And then we want to go through it again for the period, and then one more time for the question mark. That's a plus sign, question mark, okay. And I'll take away this order. So if any one of these gets triggered, it'll continue the while loop. Alright, so now take away the punctuation. So quote is equal to, we're going to use the substring method from the quote class, from the string class, and that will just grab a little piece of it. So we're going to set that equal to a little piece of the string, which is quote substring, and then the arguments are the first character where we're starting out with the substring and the final character. So that's 0 over 2, the length of it. So quote.length, and minus 1. For the same reasons up here, we're taking the last one. And this is non-inclusive, by the way. It includes 0, but not this one. So this is the very last character, but won't include that. That's how this substring method works. When I was testing it out, I said something along the lines of, how are you? Well, what that did was, so it took this, it trimmed it, took away the white space from the edges, and then it took away the punctuations, and then it didn't work because there's still a white space there. So just to be extra safe, let's trim it again. Quote.trim. And we're almost at 20 minutes. This is taking a lot longer than I expected, but oh well, moving on. Alright, so now we've got our quote set up, and now we're going to check if that quote matches with anything in our array. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new variable and call it byte response. And this is going to represent whether we have a response yet or not, whether our chatbot has found a response yet. Let's put down all this in there, isn't it? So 0 means that we're searching through our chatbot array for matches. And 1 means that we didn't find anything in chatbot, meaning you have to go through our default. And 2 means that we did find something in the chatbot array. Okay. So we're going to need this to make sure that we trigger default what needs to be triggered, and we have a loop here, and we're also going to use it to break out of the loop when we need to. Alright, so this is going to be a while loop. Okay, so actually first I'm going to create a new variable called int j, and I set equal to 0. So this is going to represent which group we're checking. So while we're going to check every single group, and just so we know, just so we're clear, group represents which group. So that's group 0, and that's group 1. And if we had more, and this defaults, that's not really included, but if we had more, that it could go on for any amount. And it doesn't directly correspond, well, it's not the same as the index of this array. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, but that's group 0, and that's group 1. So just to be clear on how I'm going to do this. Alright, now I have while loop. So while response equals 0. So while we're searching through it, so that means we haven't found anything in it yet, and we haven't given up on finding stuff yet. So if in a array, this is a new function, new method that we're going to make, and that's going to represent, that's going to take a word, so in our case it'll be quote, and it's going to check it in a particular array. And in our case, the array we want to check it in is chatbot j times 2. That's when we want to check it in. So if j equals 0, we're going to check it in 0. If j equals 1, we're going to check it in j times 2, which is this one. So it'll always be checking in an even numbered one. It'll be checking in the first thing we have in the group, which will represent our possible inputs. And before I forget, let's do quote.add to lowercase. What this function does is it converts the quote over to lowercase, and by inputting this in the method as a lowercase word, it ensures that it's not case sensitive, which makes it more flexible. Okay, so now let's set up this in array method. Okay, so public boolean, so it's gonna return true or false in array. So we're going to see if string input is, okay, and string input is the first argument, and string array str is our second argument. Okay, so it'll return true if it finds this string in the array. It'll return false if it does not find the string in the array. So to begin with, I'm going to create boolean match and set false to begin with. Now we're going to create a for loop to loop through the entire array. So for int I equals 0, I is less than str.length minus 1. No, just like that. str.length and I plus plus. Okay. One thing I want to point out before we continue, I've been using this length thing a lot, and they have a length type thing for the string and for arrays. For the arrays, this length represents how many indices there are in the array, and for strings, it represents how many characters there are in the string. The thing you want to, that I think might confuse you, is that for strings, it's a function, so I have to put these things at the end. So it's a function because strings can have a variable amount of characters in it, but for arrays it's a constant variable, so there's no brackets at the end, and that's because with arrays you set it at the beginning when you create the array, and it won't change, so they can just store it as a constant and leave it. But with strings, they have a function to figure it out every single time because it has a variable amount of characters. Okay, so this will go through every single element in the string array, and now we're going to check if the element matches up with anything. So if str, if that index of the array dot equals, because it's a string I have to do dot equals rather than the equals, if it equals our input, then we want match to be set to true. Okay? And then once we've gone through this, either match will be true, it will have found a match and match will be set to true, or it would have gone through this for every single one of the things in the array, and match it wouldn't have been able to find a match. And either way, we want to return match, so that once this array is ran, it'll return whether it matched or not. So back up to where we were, right here. So we want to figure out if that is in the array. And if it is, we want to set response equal to 2. So remember, 2 means that we did find something. Because it matched, it means we did find something in this in the chatbot array. So that way that'll break us out of the while loop once we finish this part. Okay, so now we want to select randomly from the possible responses. So int r equals a random number. So I'm going to go import the math class, because that includes a random method that we can use. So import java.lang.math. There we go. It's taking longer than I expected. Alright, where were we? Okay, down here. So, first things first. The method we just imported, the method that we're going to use is math.random. This will give us a random number between 0 and 1. 0 inclusive, 1 non-inclusive. And we're going to multiply it by the number of possibilities we have, which is the length of the array of Michael's responses. So that'll be chatbot. So remember, j times 2 was the first one in our little grouping. That would be the first one. And so if it found one in there, we want to add one and to check this one. So we'll say j times 2 plus 1. So this will give us its possible response from Michael, and want the length of that one. So length. This is not a method because it's a constant with arrays. Okay, so that will give us the random number, but it can still be a decimal and that kind of stuff. So like this could end up as, I don't know, 2.5, and I want it to be a whole number because this is an int. So I'm going to use another function from the math class, method from the math class. So math.floor. This will round it down to the nearest integer, and it'll return it as a double. So I want to cast it into an int after it's finished. Okay, so there we go. That gives us a random number. And now I want to add the random response, so add text. And move down the next line, so I'll put the backward slash n, and then I'll put the prefix from Michael's speech. So Michael, then I want to tab it, so backward slash t. Then we're going to type down the response. So chatbot j times 2 plus 1. That's the array for Michael's responses. And then r is the next in the array that we want to look up. Okay, let me just go over this again because working multidimensional arrays can be confusing. So this is the array we're getting the response from. So it could be any of these two. And then this is the index in the array that we want to grab. So that's saying which one in the array are we grabbing. Let me just minimize some of this stuff to make it a little bit smaller, more manageable. There you go. That looks slightly more manageable. Alright, so there you go. We typed down Michael's response. Alright, so then I probably should have done this part first, but that's depending on j. So the first time it goes through here, j equals 0. And then we want j plus plus, we want 1 to be added to j, and then it'll go through again, and 1 will be added to j each time. Now we want this to stop at some point once we've tested all the groups. So after we've done j plus plus, we're going to check if we haven't reached our limit for the groups. Right now there's only 2 groups. So it'll start with j equals 0, and it'll check that. Then it'll add 1 to j will be equal to 1, and it'll check that. And then it'll add 1 and j will be equal to 2, and that's what we want to stop. So over here, once j equals 2, we want to stop. But I want to put that in terms of the array. So the way we're going to do that is if j times 2 is equal to chatbot.length minus 1. Alright, so j times 2 is the first one, remember? So 0 times 2 is 0, which is right. 0 times 1 is 2, which is the one we're looking at there. And then 0 times 2 is 4. Yeah, this is 4, so that would represent that one. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And the length of this array is 5, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the index of this particular one is 4. So that's why we do the length minus 1, because of the zero-based system and the way that programming is confusing like that. Okay, so if it's reached the end, I'm going to set response equal to 1. Because, remember, response represents, that means that we didn't find anything. So, if we didn't find anything, we want to go ahead and do the default. So if response equals 1.
There's a wasp in here.
Oh, I think you're right. Why don't you go and kill it? Okay, well, I'll take care of him later. Alright, so if response equals 1, we want to go for the default. 1 second, I messed up in this section a little bit. It's possible that we went through this one, we found something, and then we set response equal to 2, and then we moved on, added 1 to j, and then it sets response equal to 1 right there. So we want to make sure that hasn't already set response equal to 2. So and response still is equal to 0. I messed up on this in mine. Like, it took me a long time to fix out that error to catch that. Okay, so that's kind of important there. Alright, so if response equals 1, meaning we failed, then we want to do one of the default things. And it's going to happen very similar to the way we did this line right here. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in there and then fix that. Alright. So, the one we're going to deal with is the very last one in the array. So, not j times 2 plus 1, but the very last one. So, chatbot.length minus 1. Again, multi-dimensional arrays can be confusing, so this looking at it like that is confusing. Length minus 1, this is giving us the length of the bigger array, I guess, so of the one that has these indices. And then we're grabbing the length of that particular one, so this is the very last one right here. So we're grabbing the length of this particular array within that array, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the length. Okay? And then we want to grab a random one from that, so chatbot.length minus 1. This is the very last one. I want to grab a random one of that, which was established up here. So that's how that works. Okay? And then last but not least, we want to move down to the next line. So far, we started at up here, where we just typed down U, and then when we typed down Michael, we moved down to the next line, and then we want to move down the next line again, so we're ready to type down U for the next time somebody input it. So add text backward slash n with that quotation, semicolon at the end, and make sure that's a capital T because it's case sensitive. Whew. Alright. And I do believe that's everything. Let me just check the code. Yes, that is everything. I hope you understood it. One of the nice things about this technique is that you can add stuff to this freely. Like if you think, oh, I want to add another group here, I want to have a yes type thing. So if I say yes, I could have him respond saying no, because he will respond no, probably most of the time, just to contradict you. And then I could add different no's to make it more interesting. So that's one of the nice things about this. So even if you don't understand anything in this tutorial, if you understand how this operates, you can just add stuff to it to make it more dynamic, and that's pretty cool. So save it, and then I'm going to go into my command prompt and compile it, chatbot.java, and I get an error, which would have been a miracle if we made it through this without any errors. So first error, forgot a quotation, or no, semicolon somewhere. That was with the substring thing, which I did when I was saying I think it's lowercase. No, I was saying about punctuation. There we go. That's that error. And the second error, I don't quite see what the problem is there. Oh, I see it now, I think. Here I use response equals 0. I need to do equals equals because I'm checking it. I'm not setting it. Okay. That wasn't the error. Class expected. Chatbot array. Huh. I may need to cut this one out to take the time to review this further. Let's see. Class expected. This one. Oh, okay, I see. I figured it out now. Okay, so those are square brackets, meaning that I want the length of one of the things inside this array. So it means I'm asking for, but the fact that I put those square brackets there means I'm asking for the length of one of these arrays. But it's giving me an error because it doesn't know which array, because I didn't put anything in there, so I wouldn't need to put 2 there or something like that to say which array. But I don't want the index of all of it. I just want the length of the general one, so no square brackets there. Alright, let's go back to the command prompt. I closed command prompt, didn't I? I'll have to open it again. Color E, CD tutorials, CD chatbot. There we go. Java C chat. Chatbot. .java. More errors. Cannot find symbol. I said chat at over and over again. I feel like indeed. It's char at, because chat isn't a primitive data type, I'm afraid. Char is. False. Alright, Java C. Up. There we go. 2 more errors. No worries. I did another equals sign when I should have done 2 equals signs down here. Down here. Debugging is so much fun. You learn to love it. Diaglog. That is a typo. It's not diaglog. And that was in the add text method. Yeah, there you go. Dialog. Alright. And there we go. It just compiled fine. That debugging takes a little time every time, no matter how good you are. It's very hard to make a perfect program, but you got it. If you stay persistent, you'll learn how to fix bugs pretty quickly. And that wasn't very bad at all. We didn't have any major bugs, which is a good thing. So now let's run it and see if we have any major errors. Okay, so it has started up, and the command window hasn't given me any errors yet. That's good. So I say hi. He says hey. Perfect. I just typed down hi, so it registered hi as one of the possible greetings in this array. So type down one of these at random. You can see hey is one of the possible responses. Okay, so let's see. Let's try how are you. He says good. Very good. Now let's test our case sensitivity thing. How are you? Question mark. Doing well. Good. Now let's see. How are you? Space question mark. That didn't work. But what that does show is that we have that his defaults work. Type the random stuff down. It'll put down one of his defaults, which is always cool. And let's see. Right, just now it didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. When I did this part, this space threw it off again, right? Like I showed you before this tutorial. I thought for sure having this trim here would fix it. Oh well, it's still pretty good. And then if I say no, if I say yes, it'll say no every time. And he has multiple variations of no to make it more interesting. Alright, so that is all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a lot longer than I expected. I thought this would be like a quickie, but oh well. This is the first Java tutorial I've done other than my basic Java series. I don't expect I'll be doing a lot of these because I don't feel very comfortable with Java, but I hope I'll be doing more as time goes on. And if you have any requests for Java, please give them to me. Like I said, I'm not that comfortable with it yet. Like I don't think I'll be doing. I will do a video game series, but I need to feel comfortable making video games with Java first. But for as far as more simplistic stuff, I can show you how to do that. I think, let's see, for future tutorials, maybe I'll do a recursion tutorial. I can show you some more swing stuff. So, yeah, that's what you can expect. And as for this tutorial, this was how to make it respond to phrases, but in the description I will give you a link to my tutorial where I'm talking about how to do the counter thing. So if I say, League is a bad game, he won't say noob, he'll say, you're a bad game. So if you want to learn about that, link in the description to that tutorial. So that is all. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time.